Alright, what's up everybody, Mr. Mira here, and today we are back with another Java video. And as programs start getting more complex, it becomes harder to try and keep all that logic in order inside the main method. And as this happens, the likelihood of logical errors increases, and logical errors are very difficult to find and correct, and that can become frustrating. Also, it becomes difficult to start breaking up the code inside the main method, and it's just as difficult to start assigning team members different tasks to do, to work on, if everything is happening inside the main method. So if you haven't really picked up on it yet, today we're going to actually start talking about methods. How do we create methods? Why do we create methods? And what that process looks like. The focus for today is to discuss why we create methods, and we create methods, one reason is to help us break out a program into smaller, more manageable parts. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, and then the goal is also to look at the difference between instance methods and static methods. Static methods versus instance methods. Another benefit, let's jump into our code here, and I think we actually have two code files, and we're opening it up. Let me talk about this. Another benefit of having methods is that it allows us to start practicing what is known as procedural abstraction. Procedural abstraction means that the user, the end user, or us, if we happen to be the end user, does not need to know all the implementation details of a method in order to use it or call it. We don't need to know all the implementation details when using somebody else's methods, just as the end user doesn't need to know all our implementation details of our own methods. We only need to know about the arguments and what the effect of the call is. There's a whole lot more to procedural abstraction than that, but for now, let's jump into the code. And I think we went with Eternal Sunshine. We did, and we have two classes, and our second class is of the Spotless Mind, right? So that's our two classes today. And the reason that we have two code files today is because our goal is to talk about methods in the context of static and instance methods, and having these two files can help us show off those differences more clearly, I hope, or better, whatever we want to say. So our main method exists in our Eternal Sunshine class. We have our public static void main with our string array of args. We also have a static method inside there, which we will talk about at the end of the video. I want to jump over to the Spotless Mind class right now, and we're going to talk about the two methods in there. One is static and one is known as an instance variable. I might have said instance variable there. That's incorrect. Instance method is what should have been said. So a static method belongs to an entire class, and some of the methods that we're going to see coming up here, like math, very shortly, math, the entire math class has static methods in it that get us some very powerful functions that we can use inside Java, but they're all static methods. So a static method belongs to an entire class, which means when we go to invoke the method, when we want to call the method, we need to call it in the following fashion. So I want to call this phrase method, which belongs to the entire Spotless Mind class. I want to call the phrase method inside the Spotless Mind class, and it is a static method. So to do that, I'm going to go to my main. And to call a static method, the process that I need to do is I need to say the class name. So I need to say the class name that the method exists in. So Spotless Mind, and then I do a dot, and then I say the method name. And our method name was phrase. And it didn't take any arguments, but I would put arguments inside the parentheses if there were any. Now this returned a string, and we're not going to focus on return types and arguments in this video. The point here is to highlight the difference between static and instance methods. So to actually get this to print, I'm going to do a system.out.println, and then I'm just going to actually call the method inside that print statement. So I'm going to cut it and paste it in there, and I don't need an extra semicolon, and I'm going to run this code, and we're going to move our print up to the top right. And we can see here, right, sand is overrated. It's just tiny little rocks, which was our return when calling the phrase method. So again, static methods belong to an entire class, and in order to call them from a different class, I need to give the class name and then a dot, right, and then a dot, and then the method name followed by any arguments inside parentheses. Class name dot method name followed by arguments inside parentheses for static methods in a different class. Now the difference between a static method and an instance method. The first difference you may notice here is that an instance method is missing the word, does not include the word static in the method signature. I have static here. I don't have static down here. Instance methods don't have the word static. That's the first big difference right there. Instance methods are also called in a different way. Instance methods require an object of the class to be made in order to call the method. We've actually already seen this. I'm going to switch back to Eternal Sunshine here, and we're going to call the static method. Now, I said we've already seen this. And what I mean is we've actually already done this too. We've done this when we made a scanner object to call our various scanner methods. We set up a scanner object, and then we used that object to call next int, next double, next line. So we've done this before. This isn't something new, but we're referring to it now as instance methods. We're calling it now instance methods. We're diving deeper into what this process is and what it involves. Not super deep, but we're starting to get a little more in detail here. We've also seen other method calls, and we have one on the screen right now. System.out.println, right? That's calling a method. That's a method call. Now, this is a little more complex on the call. What is happening? What is static? What is instance? So we're going to avoid confusion. I'm not going to dive deep into explaining system.out.println yet as a method call. So we're going to, let's make an object and call our instance method, and then we're going to talk about this method down here, this greeting. So I need to make a spotless mind object. So again, we're not going to discuss how to make this object, what is happening here. So I'm just going to call it SM, and I'm going to say new spotless mind. And all of this comes up when we start talking about making our own classes. We'll break down what this line is exactly doing when we get to that point. But for now, here is my object. So I can call a method, an instance method from that class. So we're going to do system.out.println, and I'm going to say sm dot, what did I call it? Was it sum? I think it was sum. And we're going to say 9, 8. And then when I go run this code, we're going to see the sum of those two numbers be 17. So again, this is calling an instance method. So I have my object of class spotless mind, and then I do dot, and then the method name with the arguments that I want to call. That is an instance method from that class. So static method is class name, dot method name, parentheses arguments. Instance method is object name, dot method name, parentheses arguments. Difference there between instance and static methods. Now, I said we were going to end with the method on the screen right now, the greeting, and we are. So ending today, if we have a static method inside the same class as our main method, or I should say if we have, or when we have a method or methods that match each other as either static, so I have a static main, I have a static greeting. So when we have methods that match each other as either static or instance, and they exist in the same class as each other, we don't need to do anything special to call them. We can simply say the method name with any arguments or printing, and it will work. So to end today, we're going to have just the name greeting, and we're going to run our code one last time, and we're going to see our final why hello there greeting to end the video. In the next video, we're going to look at creating our own methods. How do we create our own methods and what that means? So until then, everybody, have a week.